upon which they built a multi-billion-dollar industry. So there's a rethinking that's underway about intellectual property. And the record industry is an industry that failed to understand this. See, this wonderful thing came along called the internet that could have enabled the record industry to finally be profitable. It wasn't profitable because it had this bloated distribution channel, all these stores and CDs, and you could only bet on home run hitters because only one of 20 made enough money to justify the massive costs of the distribution channel. So if someone was a good bunter or a good singles hitter, you couldn't bet on them. And that was bad for musicians because it meant that the vast majority of people who wanted to be musicians could never get a record contract. And the music industry, rather than doing what it needed to do, fought against the changes that were underway. So someone takes the Beatles' White Album, Jay-Z's Black Album, remixes them together, sales of the White Album go up, sales of the Black Album go up. The record industry should be saying, hallelujah. They sue the people. The industry that brought you Elvis and the Beatles is now hated by its customers. And it's in the process of imploding. So the final chapter of Wikinomics actually is a wiki. And I'll tell you a funny story. My publisher came to me and said, Don, let's take all the best ideas from the wiki and we'll put it into a new edition of the book. And I said, well, I can't do that. The wiki, it's done under a Creative Commons license. I don't actually own the intellectual property, and I can't exploit it commercially. And my publisher said to me, well, why would you set it up like that? And I said, hey, you're my publisher. You should, read the book. If I am the context provider for the definitive guide to the 21st century corporation, the fact that I don't own it is not going to be a problem. So what the record industry could have done is it could have said, we're going to get together and we're going to create a new model called Everywhere Internet Audio, whereby for $6 a month or €4 a month or whatever it is, you can get any song ever recorded on any device at any time with a whole bunch of services like what does Mick Jagger listen to these days before he goes on stage to get himself psyched for the concert. You will pay $4 a month for that. And if you do, you'll double the industry of the record, the revenues of the record industry. And no one will ever steal a song. Why would you take possession of the song if you can have any song at any time? Then you put all this money together. You use actuarial economics to divide up the pool. So if I listen to Can't Get No Satisfaction by the Stones, the Rolling Stones get a few microcents. I can see models like this starting to emerge in the film industry as well. See, because if you look at what's happening to the industry, this is US data, okay? I can only talk about one country, but, you know, box office revenues are flat or declining. Scarier, the number of people going to theaters is declining. Even scarier, the revenue from people watching videos in their home, either through DVDs or through online, through television, that's declining. Whereas this is US computer and video games sales growth. Video games are growing, in large part because these young people, they want to be engaged. They want a medium that's interactive. So why are box office? Well, you've got box office sales are declining because there's a high quality experience elsewhere, like home theater. You got the availability of other channels, so you can watch movies on airplanes and all kinds of other things. You have these long tail films that people that can never justify being seen in a theater, but you can now see through other ways. You've got the global baby boom that's underway. Any of you have little kids, you don't go to movies much. You don't go to the disco much either. You're staying home taking care of your kids. And then you have this young generation of kids who want to interact and be engaged. So what looked like really great news that, well, maybe attendance in theaters will decline a bit, but we're going to have a boom of revenue. We did have a boom of revenue through DVD sales and other access, that there's evidence that that's flattening out. It's not going to go away, but it's flattening out. So Halo comes out with a new version, and everyone attributes a crash in people going to movie theaters that month as a causal relationship. So everyone's home playing the new version of Halo, at least young people are. Is the music industry the canary in the mine shaft for the film industry? I'm not sure, but this is the decline of active music buyers in Canada, my country. The labels are collapsing in Canada. The year 2008 will be the years that the labels collapse. Because today, less than 14% of Canadians are active music buyers, meaning that they buy DVDs and CDs. So this is presenting a huge challenge. Now, what are we going to do about it? Well, you got a new web, a new generation of young people, a social revolution where people can self-organize, meets up with an economic revolution and some big changes to the deep structure of how we orchestrate capability in society. This is creating sort of a perfect storm. And sometimes you may feel like you're the little boat out there just being tossed around and wondering where all of this is going. Let me try and carve out a new vision and a new way forward. And we're very fortunate. We have some wonderful people who are not just talking about it, as I do, who are actually doing it. The film 2.0. I want to end talking about 5 things. What is a film? How do films get created and produced in the 21st century? I think the industry 10 years from now will be, if not recognizable, change quite profoundly. There are new models of distribution, new models of making money, monetization, and there are new models of marketing. And I'm convinced that film companies that embrace these new models and new directions will tend to be successful in the new environment. This is a time of peril, but it's a time of great promise and great opportunity. So let's start with what is a film. I was recently at the World Economic Forum in Davos, Switzerland, and the entire theme of the Davos meeting this year just happened 2 weeks ago, week and a half ago, was collaborative innovation. Everyone is talking about the same thing that you're talking about here in the Berlinale Keynotes. And Eric Schmidt, who's the CEO of Google, said on a panel, I think what is a film is changing, that there's this new thing emerging called the 3-minute film that's a dominant form of a movie. And you can see millions of these things today on the internet. And some of them are created by professionals, and many are created by users, user-generated content. There's a big change also that's taking place along a number of dimensions. So let me talk about several of them here. This is the idea of a user-driven plot. Now we're going to hear from Jade Raymond, who's actually the developer. She's with Ubisoft in Montreal. This is called Assassin's Creed. And this is a game where you get to be one of the people in the game. And the next generation of video game technology will look like an actual movie, only you'll be able to be in the movie. Now, not all content lends itself to interactivity. You know, we still look at paintings, and they're not interactive in a technical sense. We still read novels. But most media do have an interactive analogy to them, or most forms of art in some ways as well. Like books, you know, you compare Britannica to Wikipedia, where you get to write the book. And in the book, it's full of hot links where you can get to go and explore other things and collaborate. Think of the difference between a symphony and jazz. You see, a symphony is the hierarchical model. You've got someone who's written the symphony, so a composer, someone who conducts the symphony, and everyone works together to make this presentation, and it lasts for a certain period of time. And you can listen to it on a CD, or you can watch a symphony being presented. Jazz is very different. You see, rather than being content, it's more about context. You create the context. Say, we're going to do a song, and it's an old Ella Fitzgerald song, and it has an underlying structure, and there are jazz standards.